Hello, I'm Jenny, and today I'm going to look at the runes and show you how to make your own runes. So thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope that you'll enjoy this little broadcast. You can see on the table in front of me that I've got some of the traditional runes, the Nordic runes. I'll hold up the rune rod to show you. And of course, the meanings of those have been morphed into the runic alphabet and then later the Latin alphabet, which then morphed into English. But we know that for centuries the runes were used for looking at the omens, looking at the future or the possibilities and the pattern of things yet to come. Now, for many, many years, I've been looking at the pattern of things for the particular people that come to see me, and started off by looking at the Nordic runes and the teacup, and also scrying with the crystal ball, or psychometry, which is the vibes from an article. Now, from my love of art, we'll say, and from the Nordic runes, I wanted to produce something that was a more modern twist on the runes, not to denigrate the runes in any way, the traditional runes, and many people use them for divination. But in tradition with the Nordic runes, you were just meant to draw one rune or cast the runes and see which one came up in a certain position for you, and that one rune would guide you, perhaps if you had a question to ask. Well, I wanted something when people came to see me for the tarot or the teacup readings or the crystal ball, I wanted something that they could see themselves. And that then, after thinking about it, I wanted something very simple design. So I devised my own runes, which I'll show you in a few moments. And I'm going to show you how to make your own. And if you're looking for some wood to make them on, it's very hard now to find the right wood. When I first made the runes, the original runes, which I'll show you, I did 5 runes with my own symbols on that I wanted to show to people. I cast them onto a cloth, which I'll show you in a moment, and the 5 runes were the things that I most likely saw in looking at the future in the teacup, the grains of sand in the pyramid, or the particles in the crystal ball. I would see symbols of things that are recognizable to anyone. So I used those main symbols to devise a way of casting them for themselves, for people to cast them for themselves. So the casting cloth came later, which you can see the personal area, home area, finances and work, travel and outside experiences, and family and friends. So the main areas of life that people want to know about were on the casting cloth. Now, I'd advise anybody that wants to personalise their own runes to get an etching tool, or as I did, a pyro pan, a burning tool, to burn them on. Now, it's a simple process with the pyro technology, which we use, and the nib gets very, very hot, so you have to be careful not to burn yourself. Now, you can use the symbols that I've used, and I'll show you some of the symbols on my runes enlarged, so you can see some of the symbols that I've used. Quite everyday symbols that anybody would recognise. If we take a most simple one and we etch it onto the wooden cube. Now, I've had the cubes made in various different ways. There's ceramic cubes. I've had wooden cubes cut for me. The original runes were on, my original runes were on a very hard wood, but it's hard to get that type of wood now. So I use cedar wood cubes, which are a little bit soft really, but at the same time they are nicely made, and they're made for repelling moths. So if you buy a set of cedarwood rune cubes, you will be able to put the pattern on yourself. So we'll do a simple pattern. We'll do the simple pattern of the question mark first of all. So we're going to burn in just by using little dots. We're going to burn in the simple question mark onto that rune. And then we want to do something on the opposite side of the rune. So on the question mark, we'll do the opposite rune that I'm going to use is a cross, but not like the religious cross of Christ. I'm using a cross like the red cross. Now obviously the question mark represents whatever the enquirer is thinking of as a question. So it may be a simple question: what should my next move be in the workplace? Or will I change my job? The crossroads symbol at the other side of the rune, so it could land any which way. The crossroads is you've got plenty of choice, more than one direction that you could go in. So it's really saying to them, keep your options open for a little while and explore the possibilities. That's just the question. Now on the other side of the rune then, from the runes that I devise, the apple and the house. So the apple will be printed on the other side of the rune to the opposite side. The apple is very simple design to burn on. As you can see, it only takes a few moments. Whilst I'm doing that, I will say to you that these are symbols that often I see in the teacup, and the apple means something fruitful. If we saw it with, say, a child, then we might assume that it was a birth, or even say the bird, the stork. If I saw the symbol of the stork, we may assume it's a birth. But if it came up next to the money symbol, then it would indicate a financial bonus. So the apple symbol and the house symbol. Now the house symbol can obviously indicate a move of house, but if someone's not moving, it can often indicate entering a building that is going to be very significant in one's life. So it could be a new work building, or somewhere that they go that actually changes their life in some way. So we do the simple house symbol on that side of the rune. And then we've got the chair and the three wavy lines on the last two sections of the cube. Now you can think of these like a dice. And when you cast the dice, of course, they can land any which way up. And this is where the inspiration is for divination. Because if you have 5 cubes with a symbol on each side, then and they can land anywhere on the cloth and it means something slightly different, you've got thousands of combination. Now anyone interested in me making them a set of runes, I would be happy to do so if they want to get in touch with me. But the idea is that you will be able to make your own runes, and if you've got some other symbols that you see in the pattern of things, if you do scrying, you might see them in the crystal ball, or you might look at the tea leaves and make them into something. Of course, the tea leaves are not that popular nowadays, with loose tea not being as common, but you can still buy it. And I would say anybody that wants to test their psychic ability, it's a very good way to start. I always saw patterns in things, even the grain on a carpet or the pattern on the wallpaper. I could always see faces and pictures and animals and things, and it's like interpreting them to what it might mean for the person you're reading for. So like the apple would be something fruitful for the person you're reading for, but it's depending on where it lands on the cloth. Now, some of you might have tuned in to my previous filmed clips about the zodiac signs, and of course we use the zodiac circle to do the predictions. with the cards in the particular departments, or we look at the stars and we see the pattern of the stars. Now, when you read the teacup or any other grains of sand, whatever you might read to see the symbols of the future or the signs that I believe are sent to us, if you like, from the gods, I call it the Father, Mother, God of creation. It's a way of divining your future. And it won't tell you everything because, of course, we're only human. We don't know everything. But I do believe that the pattern is there for people to see, and that certain people who are using that sixth sense from the pineal gland, perhaps a little bit more than others, will see the pictures. Anybody that's into art, music, writing, all the forms of art that we know, even crocheting, knitting, sewing, all the forms of art, they're a relaxing sort of hobby where we sort of go on to a tangent. We're on another plane of existence while we're doing that form of art. And people often say they get inspiration when they're writing a book or they're writing a song. They get inspiration and it seems to come from the gods. Well, I think that that's when they're tuning in to that pineal gland. And I believe that that's kind of the chord to the Father, Mother, creation, to the God of creation. Now, whatever religion you're in, if you have a belief, then you must believe that there is a creative God. And when we're doing something creative, of course, it doesn't leave room for destructive thoughts. And I think that that helps to carry people off onto another plane of existence, if you like, raise their vibrations. So doing something like this is very therapeutic, but I also think it can be tailored to each individual that is interested in doing the runes or reading the tarot or doing the astrology. It will be an added tool to your box of tricks when you want to guide yourself or to guide another person. And of course, we're told that we're not supposed to use the tarot cards to look at the future for ourselves. The runes, I don't think, have that connection with that because, of course, they're so old. They're at least 2,000 years old, the runes, so they say. But I think my runes are a kind of modern version. And if you like, I'm not setting myself up as the next Odin, but I think the inspiration came to me partly from my art background in my youth, and partly from wanting to help people that wanted to know the answer to something or that were in a quandary about something. So I do think that it's a good thing to add to your box of tricks. Now, you will be able to see these are the runes that I actually had made by someone else. And although I like the symbols on them, they couldn't actually replicate the symbols that I wanted, hence the burning tool to do my own symbols. But I have got this set that you can see. There's 5 of those with the different patterns on. The cloud, the spade, the joined rings, the sword, the money sign, the heart for romance. In the days when I designed it, of course, over 40 years ago, there wasn't so much attention on computers and phones. Mobile phones weren't in existence. So I used the symbol of the phone to say communications. So obviously now it may be a different symbol than you want, but you could have a simple bird on to represent communications. You know, the bird in flight symbolises taking a message from someone. We know that the birds carried the messages. The doves carried the message of peace, and the homing pigeon brings messages in the water to the person wanting the notification. So we know that birds have been used. So you could use a simple bird symbol. So if you wanted a symbol like that, you could just use a very simple picture of a bird, which will show you that. Simple like that. And then we might put a little beak on him, a little tail on him. So we could use the bird as the simple symbol for communication. So I think by now you get the idea of what I'm trying to say about the runes. The modern runes are available from me if you want a set, and I'll be happy to provide you with a set. You can get in touch with me by the details that come at the end of this film clip. But to finish off with, I'll show you some other things that you can make with your pyro pen. And to customise my own casting board, I used the pyro pen with my own design. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on camera clearly, but that was to customise it to stand my Egyptian pyramid on for when I do a reading of the sands. And those grains of sand, when I look at them, they make a pattern, they make the question mark, they make initials, letters, sometimes even a name. And anybody who does scrying might be able to do that with the grains of sand, with the teacup, or with the runes. And they might say, I might say, I look at the symbol of the chair, for instance, and I would use that as a period of waiting. We know that in the Nordic runes, the period of waiting was symbolised by ice, or Ike, just one stroke, and it was the icicle hanging down is said to be how that was thought up. We don't really know. It's so lost in the mists of time. But the simple stroke could also be the one, and anybody that knows divination will have gone into numerology. One is the individual, and sometimes, of course, in life we have to wait, and that symbolises ice, the winter period, or a period of waiting. So we might have that. We might also have another symbol that's very similar to seagull, the Nordic rune symbol, which I've used instead a streak of lightning. So we may put a streak of lightning on one of them, which would replicate very similarly the Nordic runes, but in addition to that we might have the sword for argument, but we could also see the sword, unless somebody was actually doing fencing or combat sport, we might see the sword as cutting links, cutting ties with someone. So it is whatever the seer makes of it. And this is where, if you cast the cloth yourself with the runes, you might come up with a different description, but we'd all get to the same place in the end. It would be telling us the story. And it's interesting to know that I had this copyrighted, or tried to have it copyrighted many years ago, and they said I could not have a symbol of an apple, and in any case I would have had to have a copyright for each side of the rune. And the copyrights people advised me to get some publicity. And I didn't know how to do that. But at the time I had a shop, and with using the runes that I'd designed in my shop, by chance a lady came to me that was involved in the newspaper. And from that I was then invited not only in the newspaper article but the radio. So I was able to promote the idea to other people and to show them the runes. And the copyright people say that that piece of paper with that date of that newspaper with my copyright is proof that I designed it. But I have seen a similar set of designs on cubes, and it's used as a story cube, and it's a game. So you could actually use this as a game if you wanted to be writing your own story. You could cast it and see a picture, like I see the picture for the person's life, and that pertains to their life. You might use it to say, right, well, we'll all get round the table, we'll cast them, and we'll have to make a story and see which is the best story that comes out of those pictures. But if I hold them up now in a certain way, you might be able to see we've got the apple symbol that we've already mentioned. We've got the sunshine symbol. Now the sun, as any tarot reader would tell you, the sun is intended to be the best card that turns out in your reading. The sun is your natal sign in astrology. But the sunshine, we all love the sunshine. We all want the light rather than the darkness. And so it can indicate hot climates, the summer sunshine, but it can also indicate something golden, a golden moment in your life. So I've got the wavy line, which I used to symbolise unexpected twists and turns of fate. So if we cast those onto the cloth, we'll put the cloth out and we'll cast them roughly onto the cloth. So we cast them onto the cloth, we might ask a question such as, how will the next few weeks go in my life? We cast the cloth. Right, well, we can see there's one cloud. Well, we are in the winter and we have got the winter months to get through. But it can also symbolise a problem. Clouds blow over. So we would say, well, there's a problem here that will blow over rather than you doing anything about it. But we've also got the star. The star is a marvellous sign. And of course, the Christmas period, we're all thinking of the wise men that followed the star. And it's in the travel area. So it looks like I'm in for some travel that's well starred, even if there's a cloud or the rain is coming down at the same time. But in the family area, we've got the tree. Now, because I had this particular set made for me, I had to have the only tree available to the person working the tool for me, which was the palm tree. But I have the winter tree. If you were doing your own runes, you could make the winter tree. It can be seen as the tree of life, the family tree, or the business that expands into different directions, different branches. So it's landed in the family area, so we know there's some changes on the family tree, which I have quite a large family, a lot of Christmas presents to buy for. So we know that I will be travelling to see family during the Christmas period, so that's already obvious to me what it means. But even if I didn't know the person and I'd cast the same for them, or they'd cast them in front of me, I would say, well, there's going to be some changes on the family tree. Now, in my personal area, I've got the period of waiting. The chair is the period of waiting. Now, I might be waiting for news of some kind. The key comes up, so I might be waiting for the key to something that I'm wanting. If we were looking at a move of house, we might say the key to someone's new home. But if it came up with the heart symbol, for example, we might say it's the key to someone's heart. So you see, it depends on the seer, not just the actual rune, as to what we can predict. And just as in life, we can't predict everything. There is the unknown factor, which is known only to the superior mind of what the person or the energy that I call God. Now, whatever your name for God is, if you do believe in something above and beyond us all, focusing on a kind of hobby or interest that is creative will help you tune in. But you can also tune in your psychic part of your brain to use and see what you will see in the crystal ball or the runes. If you want an introduction to the runes, I have written a rune magic book which is called Happy Spells, which I wrote many moons ago. And then I have also mentioned the runes in my latest book, which is the Soothsayer. And if you're interested in purchasing these, there's a special offer on at the moment. And next year I hope to produce one of the books, a special offer with the runes themselves. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed it and I hope you might subscribe to the channel. Bye bye.